Hola, hola a todos, muy buenos días. Espero que se encuentren muy bien hoy. Como saben, nos reunimos aquí todos los sábados, bueno, estos sábados a las 11 de la mañana para las clases que les tenemos para ustedes. El día de hoy vamos a estar hablando de social media marketing. Muy importante aprovechar las plataformas como Instagram, Facebook y demás para poder hacer crecer nuestro negocio, si es que esa es nuestra idea. Entonces, espero que tomen nota, que estén súper pendientes como siempre de la clase y que la disfruten. Como siempre, nuestros avisos parroquiales, saben que se pueden contactar con nosotros en caso de que requieran asesoría o que tengan dudas acerca del proceso. Nos pueden contactar por cualquier medio, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, y ahí va a estar Valentina para ayudarlos con todas sus inquietudes. Entonces vamos a esperar unos minuticos para que lleguen los demás y empecemos la clase. Listo, entonces ya vamos a arrancar. Que disfruten la clase.
Cool, let's get started then. So today we're looking at social media, and just before we start, I'll introduce myself. I'm Jamie Love. I am the CEO and founder of Monumental Marketing, which is a growth marketing and PR agency based in London. At the moment, we're kind of all over the place, but thankfully, we're still really busy. Given that everything has gone digital, it's actually worked in our favor. So a lot of our clients are getting more involved, and social media, I think, is one of the channels that is more important than ever, really. It's that communication channel that allows you to speak to your audience, something that you might have done kind of traditionally face-to-face or through kind of bricks and mortar, and you can't really do that anymore. So social media is really relevant right now. So with that in mind, I've kind of created a sort of lecture today to go through the key things that I think will be most important, most practical, that you can actually just put into action straight away after this session. So today I want to focus on Instagram. Anytime I do any of these, people always just ask about Instagram, so give people what they want. So we'll focus on Instagram today. We'll look at growing your account organically and everything that you can do without having to spend any money on ads, things that we can do just by using the app and using it successfully. We're also going to look at using advertising, so how we go about setting that up, and who we can target through it, how big that audience is, and then most importantly, we're going to look at measuring success. So what does success look like on social media, and what is realistic to be able to achieve through these channels. And then finally, I'm going to finish off with some case studies. I've got 3 different case studies of clients that work with us. They're all quite different, operating in different areas, and I hope some or all will be super relatable to yourselves as well. So I want to just start off with why we would use social media. So there's a lot of ways and goals that we can actually achieve through social. Of course, brand awareness and improving kind of visibility are always at the top. You know, social media is a channel that allows people to discover new brands. Unlike search marketing that you kind of need to know what you're looking for, social media still has that kind of amazing discovery feature that you can use to your advantage for people to discover your brand. So I think it's something like 35% of Americans actually use social to discover new products. And if you have followers, it's said that 30% are engaging with you because they're likely to buy from you. So it is a channel that can actually give you a good return, as in monetary return and bottom line results. So that is quite good. Social media can also increase conversion rates. Of course, if your brand is relevant and it's appearing to your followers quite frequently, likelihood is you'll stay at the front of their mind, and when they need something, they will be coming to you. So that is the reason why it increases conversion rates. One of the top reasons people use social media, though, is because it's cheap. It's probably one of the cheapest marketing channels. As we kind of already said, you can use it organically, successfully, without having to spend any money, but just using the channels. And even when it comes to advertising, you're looking at probably half, if not a third or a quarter of what you would spend on other channels to acquire customers. So with us at Monumental, social media is really, really popular for our startup clients, or for clients that are kind of new to digital and want to dip their toe in without having to go the full hog. That's definitely when we would be suggesting engaging social media channels. It also helps with search engine rankings, although it doesn't have a direct effect on your rankings or on anything that happens on your website. It's said to give Google social cues. So these social cues just refer to who that audience is that you want to speak to, but as well as the kind of things and topics that your website would be relevant for. So it's a bit of a kind of gray zone in how much it's affected. It affects rankings, but with Google, everything is a wee bit of a gray zone. So I think definitely use it to your advantage and be clever about how you're driving traffic to your website through social. You can also have richer customer experiences because you can use social media to supplement that user journey and improve customer insights. So all of the social media channels, whether it's Instagram or not, have the capability of really digging into your insights. And please use them. Your insights show you who's engaging with you, where they are, what they like, what other brands they're engaging with. And all of this information is really, really useful for your marketing. So this is kind of just a little introduction of the key reasons why people would use social. And as I was doing that, I noticed a little message pop up about Q&As. So before I go any further, do remember there is a Q&A section, and I'll be getting to it after the case studies. So as we go along and there's any questions that come up, just type them in and I'll tackle them at the end of the session. I've left about 5-10 minutes to do that. So please do use the Q&A section down there. So let's dig into Instagram then. So how many people can we reach through Instagram? Let's look at the data. So Instagram reaches 1 billion people every month. So pretty hefty. 500 million people use Instagram stories every single day. So that's a potential reach of that channel. 63%, so more than half of Instagram users log in on a daily basis to their channel. And this has probably increased it's definitely increased during COVID, we know that. 200 million Instagram users visit at least one business page every day. So I know a lot of businesses are always kind of wary about the use of Instagram because they see it as a very social channel. People aren't looking at your business, but we know that over 200 million people check business pages on a regular basis. And 62% of people say they have become more interested in a brand or product after seeing it in their Instagram stories. And we're going to look at how to get your product into Insta stories when we look at the ad section of this session. The most popular question that usually comes up when we talk about Instagram, and anytime I've done anything like this, is around the algorithm. So I think that's probably the scariest part for any marketeer or anyone using Instagram for their business. And that is really kind of wrapping your head around how to best use the algorithm so that you don't get shadow banned. And shadow banned is basically when Instagram kind of hides your content because of different reasons. But also that you're able to then kind of cultivate a good engagement and even be able to speak to your community successfully. And the algorithm has changed a lot over the last couple of years. When Instagram and Facebook first started, the algorithm was very much around recency, and it was very chronological. Whereas as time went on, it started getting smarter, and it actually started using a more human approach. So in 2016, there was a big algorithm update, which was really the one that had the biggest impact on businesses especially. And so this is where it was a time where it was all around viral videos. So of course, because of the way people were engaging with it, all that you would see on your feed was just viral videos. And this was not working for what these channels were set up for. So this algorithm update came in 2016, and it was all around the moments you care about. So what Instagram did, it looked at the content you engage with more, and it would just show you that more. So it was pretty simple, but it was the first step away from that kind of chronological way of thinking. In 2018, they realized that actually this wasn't still working to the way they had planned, that people were still engaging with a lot of viral content. And because of that, we're missing the reasons why people have social media. So to actually engage with their friends, their family. So in 2018, they brought out this new algorithm called, well, they never really have a name, but it was all around putting your friends and family first. So it would prioritize personal accounts over pages. And what this meant is that a lot of businesses suffered from this because, you know, we saw publishers go out of business because they just couldn't get that reach that they did before. So this was probably the biggest one from a business point of view. And it definitely affected a lot of our clients, which meant that they were working with us more, and we really had to drill down into the kind of behind the scenes to be able to reach the same number of people we were before. And then finally in 2019, this is probably the most intelligent update. And this was when it was all, it was kind of named It's All About You. And this is kind of a mix of everything they've done up till now, really, but it's really looking at your behavior, what you engage with. So say, for example, you engage with 3 business pages every day, they're around fashion. It would tailor the experience to be extremely, extremely targeted to you. So even if I followed the same people as someone else, the content we would see in our feed would be completely different because it was all around artificial intelligence and machine learning around your behavior. So with this in mind, think about how your audience would use their channel and where you can come up and how you can be made relevant even with the most recent algorithms. And all of this algorithm stuff can be found online, and you can kind of delve a wee bit deeper should you wish. But it's definitely something cool to look at before really delving into the platform, because this will affect how successful you are on the platform and as well with the content you're creating. You don't want to be wasting content or time. So getting this understanding as your foundation is really, really important. So with that in mind, how best to use Instagram? So this is also another hot topic that comes up all the time. And the questions I always get asked are around the frequency of posting. There seems to be this huge misconception that to be successful, you have to just post a lot. You know, it's not about quality, it's about quantity. And that used to be the case, as we said, when the algorithm was, you know, in the 2017, 2016s, where it was all around recency, it was chronological, and it was all about, you know, who liked what, really. Whereas now, because of the way the algorithms work, it's actually more driven towards quality content. You know, Instagram really looks at your content and how relevant it is to different audiences, and that's what it will optimize for. So what I always suggest to my clients is very much posting only 3 times a week, but posting really intelligent quality content that is going to add value to your users and get people to engage, because realistically it's all about engagement. You need to get likes, you need to get comments, and we're going to look at how to do that in a sec. The thing that you can do a lot of, and I would suggest you do, is Instagram stories. So you'd want to do at least 1 Insta story a day. These still have a sense of recency and chronological order to them. So definitely the more you post, the more visibility you will receive. I've tested this out a number of times on my own channels, and it does work really well. What I would suggest is maybe staggering your content out throughout the day. So maybe doing, you know, starting off your day with 1 Insta story, then doing something at lunchtime, middle afternoon, and then in the evening. So that would mean that it would bring your kind of bubble to the front constantly. So if there is content that you want to get out there frequently, Insta stories is the place to do that. And of course, once you have over 10,000 followers, then you can do swipe ups, you can direct people to set web pages, and it gets really fun. So that's the channel, well, the feature that you can use a lot of for kind of daily content. The more cornerstone content is the one that would go into your posts, which can be up to 3 times a week. That would be my recommendation anyway. So yeah, high content relevance, think of your audience, and really think of what social media is. It's a channel to speak to people. So it's a two-way conversation you want to be creating. And the only way to do that is to have content that is relevant to the audience you're trying to speak to. And my final piece of advice would definitely be around your content pillars and tone of voice. So the way we look at it at Monumental when we engage a client in social media is we give them 3 content pillars. And what this means is that it's going to be the foundation of what the future content is going to be based on. So for a lot of our clients, when they work in consumer technology, they would be looking at, a community content pillar, they would be looking at a product content pillar, and maybe a storytelling content pillar about the technology, for example. And what this means is that anytime we create content, we look back at these content pillars and almost do like a tick boxing exercise in the sense of like, okay, does this piece tick any of the 3 content pillars we created? Because we know that that's what's going to be most relevant to the community, but it also means that we can stay consistent and authentic and just create a kind of expectation of what people are to expect from our channels. So definitely use the 3 content pillars. From this, we also want to create a tone of voice. People like to know how you're going to be speaking to them and the kind of content and the way you're going to be presenting it to them. So your tone of voice, really, really important. Define how you want your brand to be perceived. And the best way to do this is really thinking of your brand as a person. So, if your brand was human, what would it look like? How would it speak? What would it care about? Would it be funny? Would it be quirky? And this is really the best way to kind of start thinking of how you can speak on social media. And we've recently done a kind of rebrand exercise at Monumental for our own channels. And this is something that has been evolving with time, and it's taken a kind of long time to get here. But we've kind of narrowed it down that our tone of voice is pretty much Eddie from AdFab, I don't know if you watch it, mixed with kind of the quirkiness of, like a RuPaul celebrity. And that's the kind of way of speaking that we want to project, and it works well across different channels. The good thing with it is that because the content we share is usually quite thought leadery, it's looking at data and insights of marketing, it really stands out because most B2B companies are very black and white in the way they speak. They're very straight to the point, very professional. But people use social channels because they want to have fun. So the way that we present probably the same content as other people really stands out and gets a lot of engagement because it's just a fun read. So again, that came from really understanding our audience and really understanding our content pillars, our tone of voice, and the channels that we will be using to speak to our audience. So that's really key for your success. The next thing I want to touch on is around the uses and features that are available just organically that a lot of people usually forget. And this is actually something that I've developed recently within my social media talks, because I think it's quite an easy thing to overlook. But these are features that are available organically and for free on every account, no matter if you have 10,000 followers, if you're a business or not, that you can use to really amplify your content. And I think these are quite important to get right. So Instagram Insights, as we already mentioned, these tell you a lot of things about your audience, but the kind of most useful part of them is that they tell you when your audience is online and wanting to read your content. I mean, it can't get any easier than that. So really use your insights. It will tell you the days that people are most engaged of your following. It will tell you the times that they want to be engaging with you. This gets a wee bit trickier if you have maybe a global audience and you're working across different time zones. Totally understand that. What you might want to do in a case like that is create a strategy or a plan that will tailor the content to each of the different territories, or try and find a kind of middle ground that, okay, if I post something in the evening in New York, it's going to hit people in the afternoon in the UK and stuff like that. So there's different ways to go around it, but really use the Instagram Insights to kind of tell you when is best to post. If they're a bit scary to you and you don't really want to delve into that, there's a really fun app, which is called When to Post app. And you log in as your Instagram and it literally tells you, okay, today you can post at these times and you'll get the best engagement. So that's even kind of like a nice shortcut to the same point. My next point would be to put yourself in your audience shoes. And this is something I've mentioned a couple of times now, but really think of who your audience is. And I think the time in my career where this was really important was when I was working at British Military Fitness. I was heading up their digital marketing. And one of my first ports of call was really understanding who their audience was to know how to best reach them. And when an audience is maybe a little different to you, I mean, I was 19, 20 at the time, and I was marketing to mid-40s women who didn't live in cities. And, you know, sometimes it's a little difficult. And the easiest way is really to just have a conversation with your audience and understand what days look like to them. And we understood that a lot of our audience had children. They may be stay-at-home mums. So we knew that actually, although, you know, algorithms tell us that 9 a.m. is the best time to post, we knew that that's when they were doing the school run. And we knew that they were doing the school run at 3, and we knew that they maybe had like a coffee engagement at this time. So really understanding your audience will help you really exceed, because a lot of the time your audience won't fit the average, and that's okay. But it's just a case of understanding that and tapping into that. Hashtags, really, really important. We'll come back to that in a second. Using your location tag, really key. So anytime you post something on Instagram, it will ask you to tag the location you're in. Most people overlook this, but this actually has a lot of power in driving more eyeballs to your content. So definitely use this tool to your advantage. Tag the location you're in or the location you're trying to target. Although I'm based in Edinburgh at the moment for lockdown, I'm usually based in London. And I know that most of my audience is in London. So I still tag all my content as if I'm in London and get way more eyeballs on it. And then use Insta Stories. Insta Stories are so powerful. And what you can also do within Insta Stories is use invisible hashtags. So you can hashtag different things, look for really highly used hashtags, because that's probably your best bet for Insta Stories, and put them in the same color as the background on your stories, make them small and stick them behind your profile pic, and it will increase your reach and, again, the eyeballs on your content. When you're doing things like this, remember to have a clear call to action, whether it's your own channel that you want to link back to, or whether it's a swipe up that you're looking to drive people to a specific page. But definitely have a clear call to action, because you'll probably be reaching people that aren't following you. So that's probably my key point. So definitely use everything that's available to you to boost your awareness and your visibility within the platform. When it comes to hashtags, again, another really popular hot topic. And the best advice I can give you with this is just be shameless. I mean, when I was about 18, my friends used to make fun of me because there was 30 hashtags you could use. And guess what? I was using all 30 of them. Be shameless. And that's how you build up an audience, how you build up a community. You have to tap into other channels to be able to drive new people to your platform. So definitely be shameless. You can use 30 hashtags, use them all. The next obvious question then is, okay, cool, Jamie, but which hashtags? Right. So avoid spammy hashtags. And what I mean by this is the ones that look at like for like, follow for like for follow, all of these that are so spammy and really don't do anything to you. So when it comes to hashtags, do your research, build out a bank of hashtags. Best way to do this is just do it in Excel and maybe have different topics along the rows and stick hashtags in there. You can then mix and match them, which is ideal. There's usually two types of hashtags. There's the kind of really popular ones and the more targeted ones. Kind of the best way of using these is do half and half. Half really popular ones that will get you the kind of awareness and engagement, and then half that are really targeted and might be targeted to your specific business or your specific product or even that specific content. Although these might not be as successful in driving people to your platform, the people it will drive are super targeted and probably way more likely to engage more meaningfully with your content. So although they might not kind of, you know, get you to Kim Kardashian overnight, they will get you to your desired audience. So that's a really key point. If you're not comfortable putting your hashtags kind of front and center, stick them in your first comment. That is the kind of most common thing that we're doing now, is just sticking your set of hashtags in your first comment. And how we do this is we create the hashtags in a note, and when we post, about 2 seconds after we post, we stick the hashtags in. Doesn't affect your engagement or the success of those hashtags, but it just means that it's not sitting under your content and kind of distracting your audience from the caption to the tags. So easiest way to do it, stick them in your first comment. And then, as I said, use invisible hashtags in stories. As I said, we're mixing up high density hashtags with low density hashtags. Reason we're also doing this is for competition. High density hashtags will have much higher competition, and lower density will have lower competition. So this just gives your content a good chance to be seen by the people you want it seen by, or the number of people you want it seen by. And as I said, make sure you use both to really amplify your content. There's some really useful tools as well that we can use when it comes to populating a hashtag, an Instagram account. So the most common mistake that people make is that they use social media reactively, in the sense of, you know, I've been in seminars, or I've been consulting at businesses, and you see the marketing department like, oh my God, we need to post something we haven't posted in 2 days. And that is the worst way you can go about doing Instagram. Plan it out. That's what we do. So we allocate about 2 to 3 hours once every 2 to 4 weeks to plan out all our content. So this means that it gives us a chance to sit down and say, okay, we know this is coming up, let's pop that there. Let's, you know, it's almost like a jigsaw, and you just put it together in the one, and then it's done for the next 2 to 3 weeks. That means that you're really optimizing your use, but it also means you're thinking strategically about how you're getting your content out there and what you're trying to say. And also you can start creating some consistency and some relevancy in between the different pieces of content that you'll be sending out. So I would highly, highly suggest to do that. The format in which we do that is literally just use an Excel sheet. Have the first row with your media, so that's your creative. Your second row have your captions, your third row have your hashtags. And then you might even want to have a fourth row. Well, you definitely want to have a fourth row. With the day and time, these pieces of content you would like to be published and posted. That's the easiest way to go about it. And again, do maybe your first tab with your posts. So remember, that's the 3 times a week. And maybe set up a second tab in your Excel sheet with your Insta stories. And that's, again, another really easy way to kind of set up all the content you need to get out, and you know it's going out, and you don't need to worry about it. The one thing I would say, and the big caveat to this, is that it isn't a tick box exercise. It's not like, okay, I've done this, we'll get this posted and we're done. Let's revisit and re-log in 3 weeks. Remember, social media is all about two-way communication. So although you have this content scheduled, social media is all about engaging with how audiences are engaging with you. Engage with your target audience with content similar to yours. And this doesn't need to take up a lot of time. I mean, before I had my whole team working for me, I was doing about 5 minutes in the morning. We all lie in bed on our phones in the morning, so let's do something with that time. I say that, but since I got a puppy, I don't really have that 5 minutes anymore. But that 5 minutes really is really impactful. So use that to engage with people like your companies, like you, or your target audience. And all you need to do is maybe just choose a hashtag, go through and like a couple of posts, drop a nice comment to someone, and that really makes a difference. And that's how I've built up my audience. So the next part is we've got our fabulous plan. It looks glorious. We're all happy with it. How do we go about getting it from A to B? So from an Excel sheet to Insta ready. And there's 2 tools I would really suggest for this. The first is VSCO. So this is a photo editing tool. It's awesome because you can you can create an edit that's going to represent your company. You might even want to throw in a bit of your brand colors, and it just creates consistency with your creative. The good thing is that once you're happy with the edit, you can save it as a filter. So what this means is that once we have our gorgeous spreadsheet, we download all the photos and all the images from there and just upload them to VSCO, click our filter, and it's done. And we basically edited 3 weeks worth of content in 2 minutes. So definitely use VSCO. The second tool that I would highly suggest is later.com. So later.com allows us to then take the content and the captions, upload them, and put them into the software that will post it on our behalf. The new awesome thing about this software is that it will also put the hashtags in your first comment 2 seconds after you post. So it literally makes your life so easy, and there's no excuse anymore to why we can't succeed on Instagram. So later.com, I think they have a free version for people with a single account. We're on an agency account, so we're managing loads of accounts from it. But I think they do have a pretty basic version. If not, you're looking at maybe $7 a month. So it's not expensive, and it will save a lot of time. So summarize: VSEO for your image editing and later.com for your posting and your planning. Really easy way to go about it. Good thing with later.com, you can disseminate that same content across a multitude of channels. So if you want to post that same content on Facebook, Twitter, and even others, I think they've got like LinkedIn on there as well. I need to double check. You can do it all in the one go without having to visit different sites to do that. So really, really good for saving time. And I suppose my last thing on this as well is looking at different channels where your audience may be more active, or channels that are becoming more popular, and you can be one of the early adopters. The channel I have in mind when I talk about this is TikTok. So as of 2 weeks ago, Monumental is an official partner of TikTok. And what we found is that advertising is much cheaper, engagement is much higher. So if you have time and maybe a restricted budget, I would suggest to test different channels to see where your highest success will be. It's a bit of a pain to go through it, set it all up, and just, you know, play with it for 2 weeks. But after you've done that, it can actually turn out that you might find a channel that works better than Instagram. However, everything I've just talked about is applicable to pretty much any channel, with a few caveats. I did want to show you an example about hashtags and how much they affect things. So as I said, I love testing things out, and I use my own account to do that. In one post, I used new hashtags, and that's the important thing. So if you reuse hashtags, you're going to get shadow banned. So don't reuse hashtags. Try and mix them up in every post, and that will actually amplify your content. So on this one post, I used all new hashtags. I used a thing called Hashtag Generator. It's 20 quid a year, and it basically just gives you your hashtags for you anytime you do a post. Did this post, got it out. The following week, I did a pretty similar post, but I used old hashtags that I copied and pasted from a previous post. So in the post that I copied and pasted, I got 600 likes and 48 comments. So I thought that's all right. I mean, bear in mind, I have over 20,000 followers, so that's not great from an engagement rate point of view. On the post that I used new hashtags that I researched, I got 1,600 likes. So really look at that engagement rate. And for the sake of a couple of minutes to find a couple of new hashtags, you could literally triple your engagement on any given post. So that's really, really important. It's just, if you're creating the content, going through the kind of boring side of setting it all up, just try and think of ways that you can amplify it as far as you can. So again, with the location, with the hashtags, make sure to tag relevant people, relevant businesses, get your hashtags into your stories, and just make sure that the content you're creating is just going as far as it can go, because that's how you really get the best return on investment when it comes to social media. So that wraps up the organic side of the session. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to put them in your Q&A, and I'll come back to them in about 20 minutes. The next thing I want to talk to you about is social media ads. I'm going to take a drink because my mouth is so dry. And we're going to, again, look at Instagram, and then look at how we can set up a really cool ad campaign without having to spend too much money. I sound like one of them spammy ads on Facebook at the moment, but just bear with me. So why advertise on Instagram? As we said, there's 1 billion people that use the platform, and not all of them are available to reach through advertising because of age restrictions or country restrictions, so bear that in mind. So the potential advertising reach on Instagram is about 850 million people. Still plenty of people. US marketeers spend 70% of their ad budgets on Instagram. So 70% of all their marketing budget on one channel, that is a big, big, big commitment. What that tells me as a marketeer is that it works. And 30% of that ad spend is also then spent on Instagram stories. So that's a pretty specific channel to get ads out on and how you're spending your money. So really think about that. The good thing with Insta Stories is that it's the cheapest placement on any social media. You're probably looking at like less than 10p per click. So it's really powerful. And 73% of US teens say that Instagram is the best way for brands to reach them about new products or promotions. So really successful way to reach Gen Z or millennials. When it comes to advertising, it's made to look really, really easy. And that is just the way that Instagram gets you to spend money on the platform. What I would suggest is never to advertise within Instagram. So anyone that has a business account knows that anytime they post something, about an hour later, they get a little notification saying your most recent post is, performing 95% better than all your other posts. That is just a call to action for you to put 10 quid on and boost it. Quite generic, quite random. I would highly suggest not to do that. Definitely don't do that, because that is just wasting money. You can't be targeted about who you're reaching. You're kind of just chucking some money there and it's going to get it out. It's almost a bit like advertising in broadsheet. It can reach a number of people, very few may be relevant. So what I would always suggest is to do all your advertising within Facebook Ads Manager. It's a bit of a minefield, but if you think of it logically, it makes a lot of sense. So Facebook Ads Manager works on 3 levels. So you have your campaign, and that is your kind of overarching piece of the puzzle. So your campaign will hold an amount of information in it. How we like to split it up is we make our campaign usually targeted for a product or a country. So it's quite broad. The next level down is your ad sets. And your ad sets is where you can put your really targeted niches within that. So say, for example, we sell phones. Our campaign might be iPhones. Our ad sets may be different age groups. So we're reaching, 13 to 17 in Germany in one ad set, 18 to 21 in Germany in the next. Don't know why I picked Germany, but you kind of get my drift. The following and final step to it is your creative. So really think about your creative on how is it going to get people to engage with your content. So this is your sales pitch, really. So you want to have creative that is relevant, that is authentic, that is relatable to your audience. So if you're reaching a very targeted community, bring that community into the creative to really boost the success of it. Another cool thing that you can do is use influencers. So this is a really cheap way of marketing, but it makes your company look quite big. If you send out some freebies to influencers, get them to take a pic with it, use that pic in your ad sets, and it will have a good effect. What we usually find, we did a campaign with a company called Mindful Chef in the UK. And anytime we've used a celebrity or an influencer within a campaign, although it doesn't drive more traffic, we get a much higher conversion rate and a much higher engagement rate. So we're looking at probably halving our cost of acquisition anytime we use an influencer. So really, really powerful. To better explain this, I'll show you how we pitch it at Monumental. So as you can see here, the campaign is your main point. Underneath that, there's your ad sets, which is where you would put in your different people. You might want to target this, as I said, around demographics, around online behavior, or even affiliations to other brands. Maybe in one, we're targeting people that have already engaged with a Samsung product previously or an Apple product previously. So that's the place that you can do that, is within your ad sets. From your ad sets, you can start creating really cool ads. And what I would suggest, we're a Facebook partner. So once a month, we meet up with Facebook and they tell us about how to best use their platform on Facebook and Instagram, because they're the same company. So what they have most recently suggested is to let the user dictate the journey for you. So what we have started doing is creating user-led advertising, which is really, really powerful and really good in terms of return on investment. So as you can see here, within this ad set, we've created 2 ads. Dependent on the engagement on these ads, we will then target that same user with different content. So let me just give you an example to clean that up. The best way to go about it is to start off with a video. A video, if you're a new brand, maybe explaining your product, your brand, your concept. Depending on how people engage with this, you can then serve them a more targeted ad. So what we usually look at is how long has someone watched the video. If someone has watched the video more than 80% of it, that tells me that they're quite engaged, really interested. So from that, I would serve quite a targeted or even quite a conversion-driven ad of like buy now, because we know that they're engaged. If someone maybe watched between 30 to 50% of the video, it tells me that they need a bit more warming up. So we can maybe do that with some press articles. So let's promote a press article that we were mentioned in, or maybe promote some of our own content as well. So this is a really, really great way to go about it. And what I will show you is also our ads account. So our ads account at the moment is running a number of campaigns focused and targeting on the Middle East. So we're targeting different countries there. We've done events there before. We've been in a lot of press out there. So it's a really great opportunity for us to tap into it. On the first ad that people would receive is a really cool offer. So at the moment, we're running a revival offer for businesses that have been affected by COVID. And this revival offer is valid in the month of June for 3 months after that. So that means you're getting marketing at a discounted price. It's a wee bit clickbaity, I'll admit that, but it's also the most engaging and really good to kind of set an expectation to a new audience. Like, hey, this is what we do. This is the kind of price point we're at. And this is where we do it and who we do it for. So it's a really great way to kind of introduce our business. On the back of that, they can go to our landing page, which is being tailored to their specific needs. So we're using our ad sets to target different industries. We've got one for beauty, one for salons, one for technology, and so on. So that means that everyone that's getting to these different landing pages will be presented with content that is the most targeted to them. If they don't convert, or if they engage with the ad differently, is where they would then go on to different journeys within the advertising world. So if people really engage with it, they get hit with a webinar. So we're doing a webinar next week with the editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan in the Middle East. So that's a pretty big name and pretty enticing for people. If they haven't engaged that much, they get videos and content and press that we have been in order to just warm them up and teach them a bit more about us. It's almost like an educating exercise, really. So it's a really great way to use it. And most importantly, it just gives you really good numbers and really easy to see where people are converting, what content they're engaging with, and what content they aren't. So definitely use Facebook Ads Manager to your advantage. And this is the one that I always go off on one and forget where I'm at. So let's just jump into the top tips because I'm conscious of time. If you're using video, which I highly suggest you do, people engage with video 90% more than they do with images. So definitely use video as your first protocol if you can. So once you're using video, make the first few seconds count. So you probably have about 1.5 to 2 seconds to really grab someone's attention. So don't put your brand or your messaging at the bottom of the video. Put it at the start. What's the hook? Why should you listen? Put that in the first second or two of your video so you grab their attention and you keep them for the duration of the video. Create a clear and concise message. So this is something that we were actually kicking around yesterday at Monumental because there was the sales team who was telling us, well, a lot of people are calling and they don't know that we do PR. And it's like, yes, I get that. But I can't put out an ad that says, hey, we do this, 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 and this. For these people, it's just too confusing. Social media is about single messages, quick and easy, concise, that people can understand and take in. If you have multiple things to talk about, start off with the most important or the most eye-catching and use your ads manager as a way to then, through ads, tell your whole story and show your whole kind of breadth of services or products. But you really, within each ad, you want a single, concise message. That's how we work at best. Also maintain brand visibility. So whether it's a little logo in the corner, whether it's little slogans, whether it's your brand colors, whatever it might be, make sure you retain that visibility throughout the entirety of the video. That just ensures that people are going to be able to recall your brand, should they not convert right there and then, but they'll know who they want to go back to at a time that they're thinking they need that product or service. So retain that visibility as much as possible. If you're using Insta stories, this is where you need to start thinking a wee bit more strategically about how you're placing your text and your content. You've got to be aware that there will be a call to action that hovers over the bottom of the story, but you've also got to consider that there's your profile and there's the duration bar at the top. So don't put content too close to the bottom or too close to the top. Also, if you want people to click on a specific part, make sure it's not too close to the left or too close to the right, because that will just skip to the next story or the previous one. So just think of that strategically of how you can place everything you need to say on your creative so that it's not impacted by the call to actions and the other features that then will appear on a story ad on Instagram. And as I said, the last thing I want to talk about is measuring success. And this is usually where a lot of our clients get a wee bit confused, because they're like, well, am I looking at followers? Am I looking at reach? Am I looking at conversions? And usually my answer to that is, well, what is your goal? You know, marketing goals, social media goals, and business goals should all go hand in hand. And the minute you kind of pinpoint exactly what you're trying to get from your marketing in general is where you can actually get more clever about what you're doing and be more specific about how you're doing it. So if you're looking to maybe build a community or look at customer retention or even look at just increasing engagement to get your brand visibility higher and more recognized, then you probably want to look at more engagement-based metrics. So these are things such as likes, comments, retweets, followers. You might want to even look at engagement rate. And engagement rate is a really great tool and a really great formula to really tell you where you're at. So your engagement rate is calculated by adding all of your engagements on a post together. So that's likes, comments, saves, shares. I think I've got all of them. You add all of them together and then divide that by the number of people who follow you and times it by 100. That will give you your percentage, which is your engagement rate. The most popular question that comes off the back of this is, okay, cool, what is an average engagement rate? And that is the most difficult question for any marketeer to answer, because the truth is that there isn't an average. So roughly speaking, you're looking for 2 to 5% for a brand page, and you're probably looking from 4 to 8% for a personal kind of influencer page. And that's the kind of the best guide I can give. So brands usually a bit lower in engagement, influencers a bit lower than personal. But you're kind of looking between 2 and 10% on average in general across pages. You also maybe want to look at account mentions. So if your goal is to increase brand visibility, brand awareness, you're going to want to look and see who is talking about you. Sprout Social, really good one to tell you about how your brand is being perceived across the social media landscape. So if that is your goal, I would definitely look at investing in Sprout. It will tell you about your account mentions, but it will also give you indications as to the sentiment of these mentions. So what I mean by that is that it will say you have 1,000 mentions this month, 63% of them were positive. So that also tells you how your brand is being perceived, but it digs a bit deeper as opposed to just mentions, and it tells you how it's being mentioned. If you have a more kind of rigid acquisition-based strategy, which I love, I'm all about acquisition, that's where you'll probably be looking at conversion rates, traffic to site, time on site. So you're very much using social media as a means to an end. We're using it to get people onto your site for them to engage with your content onto another platform. So that's where you would be looking, as I said, at conversions, follower growth, clicks to site, time on site, anything that actually gives us a real indication of people are taking a specific action or any action to get to ideally converting and purchasing something, inquiring, or whatever your goal on your website might be. So that's my kind of quick run through of organic and paid. I hope that was helpful. I've got a couple of case studies actually to talk you through, just to give you a better idea. Let me just share my screen. All of these are available on the Monumental website as well. So if you want to look into them a wee bit further and actually read through the case study, you can do that there, or you can inquire and one of our team members will reach out and give you the full case study breakdown. So this is Lebec. This is an app that we were working with last summer, and we did a pre-launch campaign. So this is a bit of a, I mean, this takes niche and target to a whole new level. We were looking to reach people that identify as Muslim or have an interest in the Muslim faith, to sign up to this new app, which is the world's first Muslim social media network. And it sounds really glam. The way we did that was to combine content, creative, social, and PR to get people to sign up. When it's a new brand, we always like to chuck in a bit of PR because it increases trust and credibility. And especially when you're, joining a social media network, you need that kind of trust element to be there to really power your advertising that we were doing through Facebook. So the good thing with social advertising is you can use it to learn about your audience, as we said. And we started off very much like, okay, we know the UK has a high demographic of Muslims, as well as certain parts in Europe. We couldn't be more wrong. The people who were signing up were people in Malaysia, Indonesia. So really looking at those countries that we had completely overlooked. And we were able to do that with Facebook. So long story short, we had 6,000 pre-signups in a month. So this was when the app didn't even exist, the platform didn't even exist. And our client literally used this as a way of like, is this business viable? Here's some money, tell me if it works. So we had, actually it was close to 10,000 by the time of launch, people ready to use this platform just through using social media ads. And again, we used a similar approach of starting off with a video, explaining the brand, telling people what it was, and then following up with more acquisition-driven ads for them to leave their details and be invited to our launch and to be early adopters of the app. So that was one of the case studies. Then Fafas, this is a more kind of easy case study to understand. It's a food chain in Sweden and Finland. And they launched their first restaurant in London, in Covent Garden. And they came to us because although their brand is bigger than Burger King in the Nordics, nobody knows who the hell they are in the UK. So they came to us and were like, right, guys, we need to be as big. So again, through really targeted content, it was super engaging. It was stunningly beautiful, their Instagram. We actually ended up building a higher following than their main account in Finland. So that was just in 3 months. We had an increase, a follower increase that was massive, and a 26% revenue increase. So the reason I wanted to show you this one is because a lot of times with social media, we get stuck on the vanity metrics of, oh, I've got 10 new followers, I've got 3% more engagement. But realistically, we're doing all of this to make some money. And Fafas is a good example of that. We increased their revenue by 26% per week. So it was really, really positive for the client. But again, using that similar idea of start off with a video and then follow up with more targeted pieces. We did a lot of campaigns like targeting, tag a friend and get a free falafel, like it was all really targeted to their product and their audience in that specific location. I'm running out of time. So as I said, those case studies are all available on the Monumental Marketing website. And there's also a messages area on there, which is our blog. And there's a social media news section. And that just gives you really useful tips and tricks on how to use social media and the most recent updates on it as well. I promise I'll shut up and get to your questions now. First one, BSCO is the editing app. As I said, really good for establishing what effect you would like to have across your Instagram and give it a kind of unified aesthetic, whereas we call it a curated feed. So that would be the best app to do that one. Do you need an entirely, VSEO, so V for Verona. That can't remember the proper way of that. And do you need an entirely new set of hashtags each time, or a new combination? And what about branded hashtags? Don't we need to repeat them? So yeah, branded hashtags, you would want to repeat them. Maybe have up to 3, which can be used anytime. When it comes to other hashtags, definitely use the sheet approach I mentioned and try and mix them up as much as possible. I know it's kind of difficult to have a new set of hashtags every time. So if you could maybe build out 100 that you can then pick 30 from on each post. Although the hashtags will be the same, the combination will be different. The key with this is just not repeating the same combo with the same hashtags on the next post. If you repeat it a couple of weeks later, that's fine. And as I said, if you're doing 3 posts a week, then there's enough time in between. And then finally, Sprout. Yeah, so Sprout Social is a social platform that allows you to do similar things as later.com, but it's just a wee bit more deep in kind of how far you can go. You can look at social listening to see how people are talking about your competitors or your own brand. It gives you sentiment. It's way more detailed. So if you have a small business, probably a bit too detailed for what you need, later.com would be fine. But if you have a bigger or larger brand that spans across different territories, definitely look at Sprout. I think that's all the questions. Perfect. Well, that was perfectly timed. So thank you so much for checking in, guys. Any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. It's just Mr. Jamie Love, and would be happy to answer any of your questions. But best of luck with the rest of your course. I hope you're enjoying it, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bueno chicos, ese fue el final de la clase, ojalá hayan aprovechado bastante, hayan tomado sus notas, como siempre, el tema es bastante interesante que incluso yo me quedo ahí enganchada y aprendiendo sobre todo. Recuerden que el link de la clase les está llegando jueves, viernes a los correos que se registraron y muchas gracias por la asistencia, nos vemos el próximo sábado.